introduce them. So it's just those awkward moments of just walking up here, right? And not knowing when to say something, especially if you're not like backstage or anything like that. But the thing about the host is they don't get someone to introduce them. So I'm going to introduce your host. Is that fine? Is that cool? May I do that, y'all? All right. This is an open conversation where we have connections and coffee, like a coffee connection. Where did that come from? Oh my God, mind blown here, ladies and gentlemen, mind blown. All right. I also before I introduce your host, another thing I need y'all to know is that your host is extremely sensitive. Thank you, man. You do you work with movies? That was good. Your host is an extremely sensitive person. Okay? He thinks he's funny. He says a lot of corny jokes. And all he wants is your laughter. No pity laughs. He wants your genuine laughter, ladies and gentlemen. All right? So if you could do the favor of just no pity laughing, thank you. See, that's genuine right here. Look at that. She can't breathe. Look at this. This is amazing. Right? If you could go ahead and just, you know what I mean, attempt to make sure that you listen for something funny, right? And then just give him a laugh. All right? So for the pity laugh, so we can get that out the way, let me hear your best, worst fake laugh. 1, 2, 3. Some of you sound like birds. Some of you sound like birds. Some of you did. I asked for it, right? You're right. All right. And what else? Also, your host would like you to know that there's that this is a no phone ringing zone, right? So my phone's dead. So if you could follow me. And so we can start the show correctly, put your phones on silent or on pleasure mode, which is vibrate. See, that was genuine. If you could go ahead and do that, so that way our artists who are going to be sharing their words with you, sharing their hearts really with you, can get some. Won't be interrupted because, your babysitter doesn't like your kid. All right? And what else? Is there anything? This guy here. Look at that. All right. No phone. Oh, man. All right. Are there anything else? Am I missing anything else? No? If you hear something that you like, ladies and gentlemen, and you want to, hey, if you're going to be cliche, let's be cliche all the way. We're already in a coffee shop, and we're going to be listening to poetry. So if you hear something that you like, you can snap. For those of you who do not know how to snap, you were 6 years old once. I don't know why you didn't learn. All right? So she's like, I didn't learn. I didn't teach that in first grade. All right. So you can snap when you hear something you like. Let's go ahead and hear it snap, right? Or you can tap on the table, right? All right, you can tap on the table if you hear something that you like, right? This is a two-way street, all right? Are we ready to hear from our host? Are we ready to meet this person? Okay. He is so enthusiastic to be in front of you. All right? He really is, especially from that cheer. What were you about to say, man? The energy you give, ladies and gentlemen, is the energy that you will receive. And if you don't give much energy, we're still going to give you a whole bunch. So we're ready, okay? Yeah? All right, I see a lot of head nods, okay? So this person who will be your host for this evening not only has a voice that has been compared to Barry White's, but that was funny. Y'all are haters. All right. He's not only a poetry and heavily involved in the poetry slam, but he also is ranked number 9 in the world for individual poetry slam. Snap, snap, ladies and gentlemen. All right. He is currently ranked with the Houston VIP Poetry Slam team, number 11 in the country for 2014. Snap, snap, ladies and gentlemen. He is the head coach of the Youth Poetry Slam team, which is called Metaphor Houston, who go and compete against slam teams from around the world. And this year, Metaphor Houston, the team that he coached, is ranked in their top 10. Snap, snap, ladies and gentlemen. Can we please give a round of applause for your host, Outspoken Bean? Hi! It is my grand pleasure to be amongst you. Thank you all for coming here. Thank you for being at this wonderful, wonderful event. And this event is called Words Worth Spoken. Give yourself a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, as my wonderful introductory guy said, Emmanuel Lee, that's his name. All right. As he said, we're going to have a great time tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Relax, enjoy yourself, buy coffee, buy something, right? Except people, all right? But make sure you support this establishment. It's for a good cause. This money goes to a good cause, right? Yeah? Okay. Who has never been to a poetry event of this caliber ever before? Never, never, never. All right. So then, this is going to be the first experience. Can you turn off the music real quick, man? I don't know who told you to keep that going. I'm kidding. All right. So this is going to be, you put a little reverb in there? This guy here. Someone, you should work for movies. Didn't anyone tell you that? All right. So this is going to be an amazing show, right? And not just because of the poets, not really because of the atmosphere and the lights and this beautiful background and this wonderful space and that you are in here right now, but it's going to be a wonderful show because what it's benefiting. You know what I mean? Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? Right? It's a whole lot going on in these worlds, in this world today, but in this moment, right now, right, we are here together and we are going to enjoy these stories that we are going to hear from this stage. So every person that I bring up to this stage, they really have something important to say because they're saying it now. All right? Can we enjoy the moment of now today, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, right? All right. So without any further ado, I'm going to do a poem, right? And then we're going to go into our first poet, right? And I want to give some context of me. I want to give some context. I am not in the military, but my whole family is, right? My family, I'm a military brat. My mom is currently a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves, and my dad retired Army. And that's how we ended up in San Antonio, Texas. Everyone looks at me weird, but I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm from. And so it's when I was asked to do this event, I was really honored and that I was asked, and I'm really happy to be here. So we're gonna go ahead and bring up our first poet. Is that cool? Right? So this first poet, ladies and gentlemen, the open mic. If you can start clapping, start building all this energy that's in this room for this moment of now for Jerry Clark. Yeah. All right. No. You want me to say something about you?
I'm a rookie. Can you tell him that?
He's a rookie, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I would just like to share a poem with you that was written by my best friend. I'm with the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines in 1966 and 67 in Vietnam. And what we found where we were is the NVA and the VC on the night. And so nights were troublesome for us. And my friend wrote this poem which spoke a lot to me. So let me share this with you if I can. The moon just went behind the clouds to hide its face from sight. The clouds just moved and covered the moon. They hold as prisoners its light. And the night is dark and filled with gloom. And I think of the deeds I've done. And it makes me shudder and question my deeds. and truly I long for the sun. When I was a child, the wise men said, don't sell your soul to the world. But I was my own man. I lived my own life, and my decisions I made in a whirl. I'm the type of guy who's had my fun. I never discard wrong from the right, but gaiety has been my one and only dream, and God knows I've sinned a sight. Now I'm old, and I think of these deeds, and I regret them quite a lot. For my time is short, and my fun is no more, and I'm afraid that in hell I shall rot. I turn to God now, as all people of my type finally do. I ask his forgiveness, forget all my sins, and let me start all anew. But I know it's too late. I've waited too long, and to have forsaken God as I have. It would take 1,000 years and the goodness of all saints to show him I'm no longer part of that crowd. And the night is dark and filled with gloom, and I think of the deeds I've done, and it makes me shudder and question my deeds. And truly I long for the sun.
All right. So the next poet I'm going to go ahead and call up, ladies and gentlemen. Please start clapping for Bahati.
I'd like to do a 3-part piece. First part's written by Maya Angelou. Second part comes from Holy Scripture, and the third part comes from me. Lying thinking last night how to find my soul a home where water is not thirsty and bread is not stone. Came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody can make it out here alone. There are some billionaires with money they can't use. Their wives run round like banshees. Their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone, but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody can make it out here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering. The wind is going to blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan, 'cause nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody can make it out here. Thank you. This was dedicated to my friend Ron Denman. Is one of my former roommates, retired Air Force, now serving as a contractor with the U.S. Army in Kabul, Afghanistan. He said that I should read this. I asked him, hey man, what do you want me to read for you? I want to read something for you today. And he gave me something he wanted me to read. This is from scripture, if I can find it, because I don't have it memorized. It's on one of these sheets. I'm running out of room. Okay, he says, behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. The last piece is mine. The last one is mine. The name of the poem is One. Have to pay very close attention, because if you blink, you'll miss it. You want to think, but not too deep. One. Count to one. Okay? Be that way.
I'm sure glad I went to school for that last one. I was at 0 and I was like, whoa. Wait. Oh, okay, 1. Okay, I got it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. So our next poet, ladies and gentlemen, if you could start clapping for Jamie Parker. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to confess I'm not a poet, actually, but I do have something of a narrative, a story. My mom always said that there's no such thing as a bad experience as long as it helps other people. So hopefully my tragedy will be someone else's gain. I'm thinking back to the Bible, and Luke 6:27 says, "Love your enemies and pray for those who do you harm." If you grew up in Sunday school like I did, you've heard this. It registered somewhere. Not nearly as important as the donut stand that some churches have after service. And it certainly didn't become real to me until I was a young adult, fresh out of college, working a real estate job, engaged this wonderful man I knew was in the Army, and he was stationed in Afghanistan. We were expecting him back in October, but it's March of 2010, and all of a sudden I'm getting ready for work, and I'm looking at my emails, and I see one from Mark that says, "Being flown back to San Antonio for medical care. Meet me there," or words to that effect. Medical care? San Antonio, it's in BAMC? Well, Mark's fond of saying that I have a hyperactive hypothalamus. He's a psychologist. Well, he has a degree in psychology. I like to think I gave the WASP response. Ah! What do I do? What do I do? How do I handle this situation? I'm not good at crisis. I just kind of run amok. So, of course, I got in my car. I did go to work, but after work, I went down to San Antonio. It's only a 3.5-hour drive from Houston. It's not that bad. So I get there, and I'm going to find Mark. Nothing's open at 1 o'clock in the morning. The next day, I'm going to find Mark. Well, I got the usual government runaround, and for those of you who are familiar with the Army, either as spouses or as soldiers, you know how infuriating that can be. Line after line, building after building. "Sorry, ma'am, we cannot give out that information. This is classified." I just want to find Mark. That's my only goal. So I'm praying, and I'm kind of giving God an ear, but no, I pretty much know what I have to do, and I'm going to do it. So I finally find Mark, and Mark is having a really, really rough time. He's not the same man I knew. He's not the same man that I was in love with. He's here in body, but not in soul, and I'm not sure how to cope with this. I'm not sure how to deal with this. All I know is that my number one enemy in the world right now is Afghanistan. The whole country of Afghanistan. I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out who blew the shell blast that's given Mark a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder. All I know is that somebody has hurt my fiance, and they need to pay for that. And so as I'm going through my day-to-day life, and I'm trying to help Mark, and I'm trying to keep my career going and all of that, this anger is just building up inside of me. It's just eating me alive, essentially, but I don't know it. I'm too wrapped up in the emotions to see that. And my faith in God is there, but not in here. And as a result of that, I started challenging the Army. I started challenging Mark. I'm letting the emotional response overtake me to greater and greater degrees till finally I'm kicked off the post, and Mark says, maybe we shouldn't be engaged anymore. Oh! I just felt like I was dead. I mean, in my mind, my mother could, if she were here, could tell you I lived for 2 weeks in my pajamas in her house because I couldn't actually get up and get dressed. And this is about the time that my mother, a very, very strong Christian, said, you need to get going. I don't care what you do, but you need to get up out of this bed, put on some clothes. Sweatpants do not count as clothes, and do something. So I started reading, and I started reading Christian literature, and I started reading about faith, which I had, so I thought. But I had another enemy at this point, too. In addition to the whole country of Afghanistan, I also have the U.S. Army that's out to get me in my mind. And maybe this experience isn't typical, but I think we all know what it is to have enemies, even if they're only imaginary, even if they're only in our minds. And so God tells us that we're supposed to love our enemies, and that's not a natural response. I mean, everything inside of us says, get back at those who get at you. Show those people their place when they get under your skin. And so it turns out that we really have to revolutionize our thinking, and only Christ can help us with that. A good analogy is quicksand. If you find yourself in quicksand, the survival experts say, the last thing you want to do is panic. You don't want to thrash or struggle. It's only going to sink you down further and further into the mire. Instead, surrender to it. Lay down and wait. Trust that help is on its way. Huh? Okay. Well, if this is what Christ commands, I figured I could do this. But you see, in order to have faith like that, we have to know love. We have to trust that God is love. We have to trust that God loves us. And in order to trust that God loves us, we have to respond to him with love. And that means loving all of his creations, the whole world, Afghanistan and the Army included. And in order to love the people who comprise these institutions, my enemies, I have to start acting in faith. I have to start trusting God. This is the very, very nature of our faith, of the Christian faith. That we start to love the good, the bad, and the ugly, even when every instinct is telling us not to. And by doing that, we become transformed. Finally, in order to love, we find ourselves forgiving. It's a supernatural power that overtakes us, that teaches us to forgive and to love. And so now that Luke 6:27 verse makes perfect sense. Love your enemies and pray for those who do you harm. It's the only way out of the quicksand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So we're almost done with this open mic, and then we're going to be getting into the show. Is that cool with y'all? Yeah? Sure? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could start clapping for Mark Bressler.
Sorry, this is my first, so I'm just going to kind of wing with it and go with God. 9/11. I was in college playing soccer, and I saw on screen the buildings, with the planes running into. And I was in such shock. I came in the Army of November of 1998, and that time I was a specialist. My older brother, next day, was sent to Afghanistan with the 10th Mountain Division. He came through the war in a little operation called Anaconda. And he fought, and God's grace, he came back alive on March of 2002. But his stories are amazing. But I'll never forget the days of 9/11, the effect it had on us, the country, and a nation. I also cannot forget the time I got deployed to Afghanistan, leaving a very beautiful woman in my life behind. I experiencing things in Afghanistan that no one should ever experience before. It was almost like a no-win scenario. If anybody who's seen Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, you'll know what I mean. You know, I saw dead bodies I knew that were charred and burned right in front of me. Ever since then, I was never the same person. Next thing I knew, I was being medically evaluated and medevaced to the States. I was not the same person. Leads to one of the biggest diagnoses in the military is PTSD, nightmares, intrusive images. I mean, hypervigilance, severe depression, and without treatment and acknowledging you got a problem, it gets a lot worse. I pushed everything in my life away. The love of my life, she kept on coming after me, and I kept on pushing her away because I just felt no emotion. All I had was hate for the country of Afghanistan. All I had was hate for the Army. I mean, I was being medical boarded, and all I had was these symptoms that just kept on getting worse. I mean, it went into the area that they talk about. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. I myself had 6 attempts. I slit my wrist 5 times. I even overdosed in front of Jamie. I still can't, right now, I wish I could feel emotion, but I'm still working on that. It took, since 2010, you know, all those times, hospitalizations, I mean, it took so much pain and rigor. I mean, it took the MVMP to help me out. It took those peer groups. It took all these therapy sessions, meds, for me to get where I am today, to tell you this story. Those images I don't think will go away. You know, seeing people die in front of you is nothing worse than that. I mean, I still see the blood. I still see the tears. You know, it's just images and nightmares that I can't get rid of. I mean, I still appear in that country, you know, like every day. I still live in the country, still thinking the same way. The only thing that's really changed is, I mean, one emotion I can honestly say I've not lost is the love of my life, Jamie Parker. She stuck by me even though I pushed her more than you ever know. And I couldn't ask for a better woman to marry me as Jamie Parker. I love you, Jamie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've had two siblings pass of suicide, and if you don't know, today is Suicide Prevention Day, right? And it's not a very popular prevention day, right? The notion of people, or that society usually takes on people who commit suicide, is selfish, and I used to have that thought process as well, and I don't agree with it. I do not agree with it. I don't agree with that you are that is selfish to do. I think suicide is a symptom of a greater issue, whether that be depression. It's a symptom of that, right? It's a symptom of PTSD. It's a symptom that is too much for one person to bear. And I want to say to you, you are so brave. You're so brave. Yes, you are. You are so brave. 100%. to add some light in here, men are idiots, so I'm glad you saw through it. All right? I'm glad you saw through that. But to you, Mark, you're just as brave, man. And I want to say from Rogers Lee Bean Jr., right? That's my brother. And from Tasha Bean, that's my sister. From them and from me to you, man, I'm so glad you failed each time. That's a test I'm glad you failed. I'm so glad you failed. Thank you for sharing. Thank y'all for sharing. All right. We're going to go into this again. This last name is rough, but Ruth is the first name. All right, yes. Yeah, you're coming up here, but... Oh.
My name is Ruth Nasrullah.
You really don't need it.
Yeah. Oh, the mic, I know. My husband tells me I have a very loud voice, and I guess he's right. So, my friend, I am not a veteran. I don't have a veteran family, but my friend Maryam, who does, invited me here tonight, and already I've been so moved. I saw that her poem is about 9/11, and so I got inspired to write something off the cuff. And just by way of setting this up, you know how they say, I'm not from Texas, but I got here as fast as I could? I'm from Jersey, and I got here, as fast as I could. But when I was living in New Jersey, when 9/11 hit, and my town is 12 miles west of Manhattan, so I was right there and I saw it. And so that's what this is about. What happened? Walking through the lobby at work to get coffee, and a crowd hunched around the TV. An accident? Incomprehensible. Then the second plane hit. Incomprehensible more than that. We went through the day, dazed, asking questions that had no answers. Got home, went with my daughter down the street to join a group of neighbors to stand there and watch the smoke that just billowed endlessly and sorrowfully. It was the fractured skyline of a skyline that I had grown up with, and to see it without the twin towers there, it was just unbelievable. I went home, watched the news, lit candles with my daughter. In the middle of the night, I woke up and heard a helicopter. And I didn't know if the helicopter was coming from the city or going to the city, but I knew that it was help. Help was on its way. And to all of those who help, thank you.
All right. And our last poet on the open mic list, Stephen Littleton. All right, there we go. Got good ones, right?
No, we're going to march a little bit. Good evening, friends and neighbors. Hello. Excuse me, I'm a little bit awkward. I was humbled to spend 4.5 years crawling on the floor, but somewhere in that gives you a strength of humility and to appreciate the simple things in life. And the poem, prayer, and song of the homeless veteran I wrote on Christmas morning 3.5 years ago, inspired. I thought I'd lost my family. My youngest son was locked up, and my only grandbaby was in CPS, little kids among strangers. I didn't get anything for Christmas. I was feeling sorry for myself. I said, nah, I got a roof over my head, electricity, and food in the box. And I was looking at the little kids' crayon art that the little kids had walked out of Little Mexico the evening before and gave me a thank you note in little crayon art. Got me right here. Said, but first, introduction should come first. About 5 years ago, I was driving down the highway, and I was thinking about what my grandfathers, the 8 knights in armor, had accomplished. Great things with only a horse, a sword, and a quill pen, and that spark. And if someone reached over and slapped me, the words came to me like that, just driving down the highway. So, the first one is called In the Lull. In the lull, between the roar of battles, when the thunder of the hooves of shiny steeds falls silent, and 2 or more are gathered in his name, when the sword is sheathed and the gauntlet removed, and a mightier weapon, the pen, emerges. The first time this occurred in my DNA, 799 years and 85 years ago, my grandfathers in multiple lines, before they knew what DNA was, William the Conqueror, Charlemagne, Alfred the Great, King Bryant of Scotland, and 1/3 of the barons of Runnymede forced King John to sign the Magna Carta at Runnymede, ending the feudal system and establishing the charter of all Western civilization. And 266 years later, in the lull, my 14th grandfather, in the last year of his life, wrote an English law of property, treaties on tenures. Well, Sir Thomas passed away August the 23rd, 1481. 8 o'clock the next morning, I was born, August 24th. 464 years later. So the wheel came around. Princess Diana was my 4th cousin. General Colin Powell is still my 5th cousin. So after finishing the aquarium restaurant in Kemah 17 years ago, I've been writing an educational documentary called The Littlest Volunteer, how to get your grandfather's and grandmother's wisdom passed to all children. In a little mix-up, they prosecuted me for 4 years for crimes I didn't even think about committing. I sheathed my sword, I withdrew my pen, and started writing an educational documentary called The Littlest Volunteer. 14 years ago, approved by Rice University and the Women's Film Commission. Thank you. Now, the poem, prayer, and song of the homeless veteran. And now, by the grace and with a little prayer, some veterans are safe at home right over there. Flak jackets thrown on the ground, others hung up with care. But someone is missing and way over there. Songs of victory near the end of the war. Barefoot men marching in the hills of sand and snow with nowhere to go. Singing songs of faith and patriotism with the voice of one. Every step closer to the dream of home. Speak to your Maker and pray for a smile. Ask for the strength to march the next mile with measured steps on the old road, searching for friends and willing to share their load. Pray for a barn, no matter how rotten, where the grapes of wrath might be forgotten. The smell of cooking, cornbread and beans. Remember the fallen and all that it means. Etched in stone for the world to see, seldom a visitor on bended knee, longing forever for the warmth of family. Dragons live forever, not so, little boys. The littlest volunteer jumped to his feet with an old smile and never a sign of defeat. Grandpa showed me the way, as this is our home. Over the hill, we won't be alone. So follow me, men, without any rift, so Grandpa's wisdom can be the gift. Lost in the hills with no peace of mind, follow me, men, till that old sun shines. On your feet and over the floor, will she be waiting still by the door? Go and strike out ahead of the curve. But please don't forget grandmother's word. Amen.
Are y'all enjoying yourselves? No. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So we're getting into that part. Do we have time to do a break, like a intermission, right? So let's do 7 minutes. All right, 7-minute intermission. Here's what needs to happen instead of in that 7 minutes. Use the restroom, right? Buy something, right? And then y'all in the back, I can see you. This ain't the Toyota Center. Y'all need to come up. All right. So restroom or whatever. Buy something, come up. Let's do that again. Restroom, buy something, come up. All right, thank you so much. Apology, I did not see his name. John Toledo. Look at all these wonderful chairs up here.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oh, good. I can hardly tell. I can hardly hear. That's 50 years of flying aircraft, helicopters, and airplanes. Anyway, I want to read you a poem. It was written in World War II. It was written by a young man, John Gillespie McGee, better known as John Gillespie. He was born in China to minister parents. His father was a pastor in China. And he was only 19 years old and lost his life in 1941. He flew for the RAF. So, without further ado, or wait, many times portions of this poem appear on the headstones of many of the military men and women that were interred in Arlington National Cemetery. And many of you have heard this poem before, unknowingly. Many of the Houston stations used to close with this last century when they turned off the TV at night. Not when you turned off the TV, but when television stations turned it off. Oh, I have slipped their surly bonds of earth and danced the skies in laughter's silvery wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung on high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting winds and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up, the long delirious burning blue. I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace, where never a lark or even eagle flew. And while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touch the face of God. Thank you. I don't like to say I'm an ex-pilot because I'm going to fly again. I'm going to walk again. And that is my favorite poem. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. So, are y'all still awake out there? All right, who got to work in the morning? Anyone got to work? Yeah, all right. Well, imagine that you don't. All right? Imagine that mortgages don't matter. Imagine that someone paid for your car. You have a car note. And if you already paid it off, well, just be happy for the person that doesn't, like me. All right? All right? Imagine all these things, right? All these material things, right? Now imagine them gone. Right? Now what do you have? That's what this poem is about. My grandmother used to tell me, you'll never see a U-Haul following a hearse. That's because stuff is overrated. In flesh connections, they're not rated enough. So when you think about it, fingers, they're made to touch, take in, let go. Touch, take in, let go, but memories that have a much more permanent power, yet elusive. They flutter to your mind, embossing your thoughts as a rising reminder that you are alive. The day I lost everything, I realized I'm not great at remembering names. I'm better at remembering faces. It's kind of like I speak in photo albums. Pictures are the closest way for humans to become immortal, but those will fade as well. So I say to you, from the bottom of my glass jar, to collect, preserve, and hold on. Collect, preserve, and hold on like stamps, postages, people, or something that's worth keeping. Heaven does not have an address for your possessions to be forwarded to. So when you're gone, leave something here worth remembering. When people tell me, Bean, it's good to see you, my response is usually, it is better to see you. I'm not saying that to be cute, y'all. I actually mean it. The day I lost everything, I realized that I'm not perfect. I realized I have dropped recollection ball more times I would like to recall, and each time when it shattered on the floor, the projectile pieces moved so fast, I might as well just shot myself in the foot. Me apologizing for forgetting to call my grandmother again. Doesn't matter. The last time I had to apologize to her tombstone, now I have to live with that memory for the rest of my life. But while we are all still young, let's learn to release luggage before baggage learns to consume you. The day I lost everything, I learned that memories, they are more like a monarch's wings. Rather than a war chapter, material possessions, where you see what you want and interpret what you remember. Moments that matter should leave your fingers shaking, your arms trembling. With all your strength, y'all, hold on to them, because eventually you will be forced to let go. Thank you. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. People on the open mic, y'all were wonderful. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. Right? Now we're getting into our features, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanna do a little game, right? I met these people, most of them today, right? And so I was just asking them. I was gonna play. Has anyone ever played a game called Two Truths and a Lie? Right? All right. So Two Truths and a Lie is basically where person A, me, and y'all are all person B. Don't worry about multiples. But person A will say three things about another person, or usually about themselves, right? And two of those things they say about themselves are true, and one of them is a lie. All right? Does that make sense? was going to do that for everyone, introducing them. But the problem is, they all really have amazing things about them. And I would have thought none of them, all of them were lies because they're that amazing. For instance, this person has 5 degrees. Think about that. I stopped at 1 and got a half of 1, a minor. And that was hard. This person got 5. She was like, and what they are is, I was like, it doesn't matter after you get 3. Right. After you start paying 3, you're just like, it doesn't matter, you got 5. I'm pretty sure you can do whatever you want. And she was like, no, I just been published in Aziza magazine. That's 2 things, right? And I was like, well, you know, I haven't been published yet. I'm only a professional poet. But that's cool. I'm only talking to you in 1 language. And she was like, oh wait, I'm learning Korean. Hard. But I speak fluently French, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, and Arabic, along with English. Which one is a lie? You were in there, right? We were all like, well. So, yeah, this game is called No Lie. Right? 2 Chainz beat us, right? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, start clapping for our first featured poet for the evening, Miss Maryam Chambler. Well, yes, you sure can. Can I unplug it? Word. Got you. Oh, you're just gonna. Got it. You make. That's where those 5 degrees come from. Man, that was smart. Why didn't I think of that? Move the stand. Oh man, Prairie View, y'all messed up. Huh? I'm so glad I went to PVU too. I'm also glad I left.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. In the name of God, the most gracious and most merciful, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, to all of you that are here tonight. I greet you with the Islamic greeting of peace. I want to thank Kalisa for inviting me here tonight. And I want to thank all my friends, Sister Ruth, Rita, and everybody else who's here, and my beloved husband, Chevy. Okay, I have a poem that was written by my brother. I normally read his poems, and this is a memorial tribute to September 11. Okay, and it goes like this. Heroes. 1, a pleasant and lovely morning. Heroes were compelled to be born. There would be a season for mourning, only after their hearts and souls would be torn. Rushing toward the danger zone without brooding on themselves, skirting to save those left behind and alone, mindful that loved ones were safely somewhere else. Screams and cries were overheard all around, yet moving forward, not submitting to debilitating fear, frantically searching for those praying to be found, grasping out the hands, sponging every tear. courage from within to save as many lives, love for one another that reflects one's Christianity, sons, daughters, husbands, and wives, lives changed and challenged to struggle for sanity. Heroes, one pleasant and lovely morning. Thank you.
Alrighty, so are we ready? Okay. Are we ready for our next poet, ladies and gentlemen? Yes? Come on, are we ready for our next poet, ladies and gentlemen? Alright, there we go. Okie dokie, pokey. Alright, so this next poet, alright? He also is a modest person. But, you know, what I quickly learned after 5 degrees and 7 languages, is don't believe anyone in that room. All right? This person is a former U.S. Marine, all right? And he was a Battalion Marine of the Year, right? He is the youngest member of the Mumford Point Marines here in Houston. And he is also a member of the extended chapter of Outlaws Nation, right, which is founded by Tupac Shakur. If you do not know who Tupac Shakur is, all you got to do is really spell Tupac in Google. So much information from the 90s of amazing work that he did, right? One of my favorite rappers, one of the people that I really invested myself into wholeheartedly. Unlike rappers today, where it's very much just money and self-indulgence, he was very much a person and a man of action and using his power and his influence in a very much of a positive way. And unfortunately, he was murdered, and yet they still can't find the killer. Anyway, I digress. But this person, he is a part of that very affordable cause, right? But before I bring him up, I would like to bring up a person that's going to actually introduce the person I was going to introduce. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Keaton. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you said, I'm Jack Keaton. I'm not a poet. I'm just a soldier. And let me see by show of hands how many service members we have in the audience tonight. First, let me say thank you for your service from one vet to another. I've given 32 years of my life in federal service. And right now I'm a peer specialist at the VA hospital. And we're here as part of a peer network. And some of the words that said in the earlier poems and readings, the first one struck me talking about it's too late. Well, in recovery, it's never too late. As long as you're still here, it's never too late. There's always hope. The second piece that struck me when the individual was reading about being alone, we can't do it alone. How prophetic, how true. That's why we have our peer networks, because we don't go it alone. Of all those veterans in the audience, let me see a show of hands who are combat veterans. I personally have a little over 44 months in the box, 6 months in the hospital recovering from injuries. So to you, I lay out a heartfelt thank you, and I'll let you know that I invite you to join the Sausage Makers Club. And what that is about, it's about recovery. It's about being whole. At one point in our lives, the world was our oyster, and we were out to find the pearl. We could go, we could do. And then life happened. Military happened. War happened. And it changed our views, our values, and our respect for ourselves, our view and perception of who we are and what we are. We found the monster within. It changed our view of the world. And we're lost, as Mark so prophetically talked about, pushing those that we loved away because he found the monster within. And I'll bet you were so afraid for this lovely young lady to see that monster. And that's part of the reason we push away. Some of us can't handle that, and it gets to the point we have no recourse. I can tell you what blued metal tastes like. You've heard Mark's story. There's 22 of us a day that are dying at their own hand because they carry the ugliness that is humankind, the things that we've seen, the things that we've done. It's a heavy burden. But there is help available, and it's called recovery. The therapy that Mark talked about, it helps. It's a hard process, and it's what I call the sausage grinder. Because that young man or woman that was whole at one time, we've collected the scrap that is humankind, the ugliness and nastiness. And I ask you, what is sausage made out of? The scrap of animals, pieces, parts, things that you wouldn't put on your plate and eat by itself. And you have to take that ugliness and you have to throw it in that grinder through therapy. And the only one that can turn the crank is you. The help is there. There's a lot of support. The therapists, the doctors, the medications. That's what I call the seasonings and the spices that allow us to transform. Until the day that I can come up with that magic device that is in the Men in Black, that little silver wand with the red light, and I'm able to say, look at the light, and I push the button and erase that part of your memory. That will always be with you. But through that therapy process, you're able to grind up that scrap with the last vestiges of whole lean meat that's in you, to transform yourself, to become new again. Because when you come out the backside, you're in a new form. You're whole. In a form that you can like and love again. And those around you can love again. So I challenge you to do it. And do it for yourself. Do it for those that you love. Seek that help. And then share it with those around you. And with that being said, I want to introduce my partner in crime at the hospital, Mr. Vincent Bryant, that's going to talk about some of that pain.
Seen a picture earlier of me. Can you bring that back up? I should. First of all, let's give all our poets and let's give everybody a round of applause. First of all, this whole display just like really touched me. I think I'm somewhere. I've seen like 2 pictures of me, but keep going, keep going. Thank everybody for being here today. Everyone has actually said something that they're that's one of them right there, but that's the one if you can just keep it on that. You can go back, just keep it at, just pause that one. Actually, that was a bad time. One of the combat photographers actually took that. He was in the rat-infested area that, we took over. I don't want to talk about it because I'm still in recovery. So, it's kind of triggering me off. I will say this before I get started. I really appreciate you putting this thing together. Let's give her a round of applause. I was writing from the position of pain, so don't take it personally. This is how I felt, and I was authorized to speak from the position of pain. Brother mentioned earlier about the difference between what you're hearing now is hip-hop, what they deem as hip-hop, versus what we know to be hip-hop. I'm a conscious lyricist. This is what I wrote that day. I'll just go like this. Please listen closely for my wordplay. Wordplay is definitely important. There's a difference between
it really worth it? Being in harm's way. I survived a mortar attack in Iraq the other day just to make pay and provide for my seeds. I had to use Uncle Sam to provide for my needs. But can he give back what we lost in Iraq? He got troops still dying. As a matter of fact, they lost some before I got here. As a Marine, I'm waking up with no fear. But see, I could be the next one to get taken up out of here. But if so, I know I'm a single parent. Just let my daughters know that I did it for them. I wanted to get it for them, so they can ride down the Texas streets on the school bus. In the meantime, I try to fix what they done messed up. Fix what they done left up to the ones like us who joined and signed. On the dotted line, they say we out of our minds. Try to treat us like zeros unless we die with heroes. On the battlefield, they say we fighting for peace. At least give me a piece of the pie before I die. Just want to make it back to share my story in hip-hop form to wake up a nation of ignorance. They say that hip-hop has changed. But see, I remain the same. I got proof when I step in the booth. It's like a Spider-Man suit with special powers. Like God when he brings the showers, I'm awesome. More than you expect from these average rappers. I bring joy like Marvin, even laughter. After the session, I'm blessing the engineer. Now they saying that this veteran's awesome. I tell these rappers, caution yourself when you're dealing with professionals. I've been doing this. I've been writing hits. I've been moving crowds. That's why they yell loud to come back to the stage to take a bow and a wave. And it feels so good to know I'm making a change through the peer network. Now, Vince Bryant, a household name, I'm serious. You should see the face of y'all when I'm spitting these rhymes. He can't be from Houston spitting these lines. Guess what? It's more like me. Called Double RP, Rap Reform Party, AMP, CCD. We generals, officers with minerals and vitamins. Now they say I'm powerful like Vicodin. Go back to what you were talking about earlier. Spicy like seasoning with rhyme reasoning. I'm cold with the flow. I ain't one of these average Joes. But the best part of waking up is God in the cup. Thank you very much.
Give a round of applause for Mr. Vince Bryant. All right, so I want to say sorry about y'all seeing me mess up in front of you, right? A host should never show their flaws. Which is an oxymoron when you think that the host is most likely human. All right, so this next poet we're going to call up, going to do a piece real quick. She is a veteran of the United States Air Force, right, from Beaumont, Texas, which is not really too far from here when you think about geography. All right, and she's a poet, an author, a mother, and retired football players for the Houston Lady Oilers. Really? Woo, ride around and get it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the truth.
Late poet. How's everyone?
No, I wouldn't even say anything.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just going to say it. I feel so bad, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm going to move this over here. I am the truth. Huh? Well, I mean, okay.
But I'll move it around for you. outside joke that you left out. It's an outside joke and you inside.
As he said, I'm the truth. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force and the Texas Air National Guard. And I am happy to be here. Thank you very, very much. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I remember it like it was yesterday. Stand at attention, don't lock your knees, played over and over again in my mind, please. All that went out the door. Adrenaline rushed and I hit the pavement floor. What a way to start my journey. Home of the brave and land of the free. So many who stood before me, with me. It was life-changing. I needed this. United States Air Force would change my entire world. No longer a smart-mouthed, womanish little girl. I would become a woman. Better yet, I would be a soldier, bred to serve and protect, fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves yet. Sweet land of liberty, my country, 'tis of thee, beauty. I can never describe the pride that I held inside when I put on my dress blues. No longer in my BCGs or my BDUs, I marched with assertiveness and I commanded attention. And did I mention that my husband says I still kind of march when I walk? And if you listen closely, you can hear it faintly when I talk. It's some things that will always be a part of who you are. Sitting in the corner beside my locker crying because I had had enough. My sisters and brothers pushing me on. We were a family. First integrated flight. We made each other strong. Lackland memories. And let's not talk about keeping military bearing. Girl, you better not smile. First time I got caught, I was traumatized. So to this day, you can pretty much see me with a frown. No, but seriously. Some of my best days involved the military. I remember the prisoner of war briefing, and I still cry sometimes when I reflect. Anderson 9444, nothing less, nothing more. How could I ever forget? Pride filled my spirit. And I no longer march to that beat of the drum, but if you talk to me, it's still etched into my being. And September 11th, tragedy. I had been out for some time. I received my honorable discharge that very same week. I was folding clothes, and I saw on the news the towers hit, and I could hardly speak. And in that moment, I was ready to go to war, and my husband didn't understand the desire the fight was for. I was free. I was free, but it killed me just to sit back and watch and do nothing. I was a soldier. I was bred. And no one could take that from me, not even after I'm dead. There is a respect that I hold for soldiers who fight because being a soldier, it changed my entire life. And the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you so very much. Thank you.
All right. And so we're almost done. All right. We have two more poets. Is that cool, y'all? Yeah, y'all hanging in there? You're hanging in there? You need to hear these last two. So this young man, right? I say that affectionately. This young man, I met him when he had just got back from Afghanistan, actually. Afghanistan, right? Or Iraq, excuse me. He just got back from Iraq, and he was like, "Yo, I'm a poet." He started doing poetry while he was gone. And he's dope. You know what I mean? He's really dope. He still does. He puts together events in Houston. to this day, and he's a very powerful person, and his words are strong. He's gonna hit you with some 2 poems. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my boy Scott Free. There you go, man.
It's been real. Matter of fact, it's just been real tonight. You know, I'm so glad that you invited me. I'm honored and privileged. I really appreciate it. I want to all the respect to you guys that got up here before me, and you know, thank you for your service. Beam asked me to do two poems. I'm gonna do this first poem, and then I'm gonna jump to the one that is meant for this evening. This poem is called Time. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, and so is time. And I've got no time to waste mine. I'm too busy working overtime, trying to get better over time, and working at that half the time with no time and a half. So with the time that I have, I'm investing in myself to get better with time. And with time, I will. And I will do my best to progress on this road to success, but success where it oftentimes takes time. But most of the times it takes money. And that's funny, since time is money. And so since time is money, you got to make sure your time is well spent. Don't spend your time on things that ain't worth your time, because, hey, it don't make sense. And since there ain't no time like the present, time is of the essence. So in essence, don't waste your time with people that waste your time. Procrastinating, hesitating, waiting, hating, because they can't stand to see you rise, and they can't wait to see you fall, because they don't want to see you make it at all, so they make it their business to be all up in your business, because they got no business of their own. That's why every time it's your time to shine, stones are being thrown from every direction. Now you don't know which direction to go or which path to take, so you're taking your sweet time to make up your mind, but would you please just make up your mind? Stop second-guessing your blessings, stressing life lessons. Ask yourself a question. Question why? Why is it that every time I'm trying to get a little piece of mind, somebody always trying to get a little piece of mine? Answer. Because they want what you got, but don't want to have to go through what you had to get it. And I admit it, I've been there a time or two. We all have, including you. Ain't no point in lying. We've all envied at one point in time, but at some point in time, you got to grow up and quit that quick. Pray for what you want and thank God for what you get. Even when what you get is nothing. Because sometimes that nothing could be the something that stopped that something that would have left you with nothing. Now, ain't that something to think about? Now, think about how much time you wasting time. Like if you got all the time in the world. Have you lost your mind? You better stay on your grind, because time waits for no man, and stand still never. So never stand still. You got to keep on moving. I say you got to keep on moving like old Otis and this here is so timeless. And I swear a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And so is time. And I've got no time to waste mine. Thank you. Thank y'all very much. All right. And speaking of time, I know time is far spent. Could you go to the slideshow right quick? I want to speak on this young lady. Her name is Faith Hinckley. And she was the inspiration for this poem that I'm going to perform for you. And she was, before we go to her picture, I'll just tell you a little bit about her. She was 23 years old. She was with the 502 Military Intelligence Battalion, and I never had the pleasure of actually meeting her. She died on August 7th in 2010, and I didn't know her, but I knew a lot of soldiers in her unit because I was doing morale events for the soldiers. As he said, I was in Iraq for 6 years, and that's her right there. I was doing morale events in Iraq for the soldiers, and I heard about this young lady dying and being killed in combat, and everybody, you know, it just affected so many people, and just seeing their pain and seeing the hurt on them, you know, it inspired me to go back and write something, because that night that I heard about it, they were having her memorial service. So I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, you know, I want to honor this young lady, because I was having a show the same night, and I wanted to honor this young lady in some way. And God gave me this poem. It's called 21 Gun Salute. And not only for her, but for every fallen soldier. But I do want to acknowledge her because she was the inspiration that that made me ask for that prayer, that made me pray that prayer to ask God, hey, give me this gift to share with others. And so this is called 21 Gun Salute. Now, I know a lot of us in here have been in the military, so at the beginning of it, it's going to be a cadence. So I'm going to need participation. Y'all going to participate. Yes, yes, north, south, east, west, something. Yes, y'all going to participate. Okay, so we're going to do a little test, okay? Oh, 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 Lord, I gotta go. Okay, so we ready. All right. Whoa, whoa, oh, Lord, I gotta go. Mama, mama, can't you see what this army's done to me? Mama, mama, can't you see what this army's done to me? Whoa, whoa, oh, Lord, I gotta go. I got a letter in the mail. Go to war, go to jail. I got a letter in the mail. Go to war, go to jail. Whoa, oh, oh, Lord, I gotta go. But mama, mama, don't you cry. Your baby boy ain't gonna die. Mama, mama, don't you cry. Your baby boy ain't gonna die. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At least that's what he thought. Bullets flying overhead, he fought. Even though he was scared, he fought. Body pierced by lead, and he fought half dead. He fought, they said he wasn't gonna make it. He could have given up right then, but instead he decided to take it, his fate into his own hands. Stood as a man and said to himself, if this was going to be his last stand, he was going to make it a grand one. Looked to the sky and told God to tell his grandma and grandpa, Paul, here come their grandson. They're holding our freedom for ransom, and he is prepared to pay the ultimate price. If that meant sacrificing his life, he would be glad to. If he had to, he fought, willing to die. He fought with pride. He fought until he lied, almost lifeless. And despite this, he continued to fight. It's who he was. He fought because he believed in fighting for what he believed in. He said life was only for a season, that eventually we would all die. But if he was going to die today, y'all, he was going to die for a reason. And he didn't believe in bobbing and weaving, so when he heard the bells ringing, he came out swinging. And if you knew him like I knew him, then you know like I know he gave him hell on the way to heaven. I say he gave him hell on the way to heaven. He fought and died for old glory, and I wish that I could tell the whole story, but I can't. So for now, I'll just tell you how he fought till there was nothing left. He fought to his last breath. He fought until his death. He fought not for self. He selflessly fought for you. He fought for me. He fought for us. But not just us. He fought for liberty and justice for all people. People. Are we not all equal? You see, for him, there will be no sequel. No new chapter. No happily ever after. Another beautiful life lost to this ugly war. Oh, Lord, what a disaster. Caught up in the rapture. No surrender, no capture. He's a soldier. Fighting with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He fought until it was over. When it was over, they yelled roll call. When they yelled roll call, nobody stood tall. And there was no reply. Tears began to fall. And eyes began to cry. 7 rifles held high for the 21 gun salute, but before they could shoot, one last call. Still no reply. A moment of silence is given before that final goodbye. Eyes closed on every face as they embraced the fact it would never get him back. Lives forever changed. It would never be the same. First came the ready, then came the aim, then came the fire, then came the pain. Bang! 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 Whoa. Whoa. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, I gotta go. Scott Free, thank y'all for listening.
So this is Talisa. Thank you for putting this event together. Let's give her a round of applause. This poem I'm going to do is new. It's not memorized yet, as of yet. I wasn't going to do it, right? But I decided I would, and then I'll end on something more, something definitely appropriate. All right? Hopefully you've enjoyed me as your host, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't think y'all enjoyed me as a host as I enjoyed y'all as an audience. So thank you for being here. And this poem is, I had a friend of mine recently who suffered of depression. And she, and you may actually heard about her on Houston News, but she, the new stadium at U of H, she jumped off. And I know her. I know her well. Her name is Alice Alsop. And when I heard about that, it took me a lot. It took a lot out of me. But I couldn't help but laugh because Alice is a person that was very quirky and very big personality. And she took everything so light. I didn't know she suffered depression. If you met her, you would have never known, ever. You would have never known. I found out from her parents, and the thing is, because she was definitely, she said something to me. She was like, "When I'm leaving, Bean, I want you to know I'm going screaming." She said that to me one day, and I was like, "That's odd, right?" And we were just joking about stuff. She was like, "Yep, I'm gonna go screaming." So when I found out how she died and everything, I was like, "Wow, she meant it." And then being at her funeral, everyone saying, a moment of silence, and I feel a moment of silence a lot of times is not necessarily a cop out, but it's something that is just said to be said. I don't feel a lot of people are very genuine with it. Not anyone in this room, apparently, and not even apparently, obviously, but I feel that that's not Alice. And so this poem was written for her. Here we go. We are a species who grieves. Let me try that again. We are a species who grieves, who remembers how steps echoed through the halls. Voices that vibrated our ears and hearts the same. We solace. We find the commandments in being solid. We mourn in rivers. Water falls down our flesh contours. We sway to the wind of our beloved lost ones. The worst part within the waiting, while waiting in a moment of silence, is the silence, which isn't always worth its weight in gold. Not all grieving needs a Midas touch. Some people are so full of color that they strike life into existing. Some people are fabric so stained that they deserve your shout. When I go, I request of you to disturb silence with a moment of noise. Give grieve in a moment of riot. Mourn by looting people's eardrums while running like you stole something. What best represents me is if you are voiceless because you evicted it out of your larynx. For some people, silence is too kind. It's too polite. It's too thank you and please to everything that noise isn't. On my behalf, y'all, be rude. Call celebration where everyone is invited. Remember me smiling. Give reverence with laughter. Grieve for people accordingly. For those those who are worth your chords, for those who are worthy of conducting exclamation symphonies, like for my friend Alice Alsop, like Robin Williams, like for Mike Brown, like for anyone who has lived a lifetime behind a soundproof glass. Give us a moment of cacophonies until the shield cracks. We have the power to create vibrations with our voices. So see my death as Jericho's walls. Know that resting in peace does not define me, nor does it define you. On my tombstone, personally, I want carved, Emmanuel Outspoken Bean was more of an LIP kind of guy, where he lived in pursuit, lived in possibility, lived in prospect, lived in pressure by living in his pipe dream, taught himself how to find love in people. Please give us loud mortals as much noise as you possibly can, and we will do the same, smiling about it. That way, we all can cash out yelling when we are gone. So as I said, I am a military brat, and my mother, when I was in college, she called me. She had retired, and then she called me saying that she was going to go to Afghanistan, re-enroll into the re-enlist, into the service. There was a lot of things I should have said, and then 3 years goes by, and there was a lot of things, and I didn't say any of it until I drove to Fort Hood to watch her leave, and when I watched her leave, I had everything to say. And I love to drive, right? I love to drive. Let me rephrase that. I love to drive on open road. I hate driving in Houston. All right, let's get that down packed, ladies and gentlemen. I hate driving in Houston, and I know you do too, all right? You know, very discouraging. I saw something that said Houston is in the worst traffic in the country. I was like, well, thanks. We knew that. Times Magazine. But I was driving to Fort Hood to clean, and that drive, I'm glad I left as early as I did, because it's only a 3-hour drive, right? And it took me about 7 hours to drive out there, because I couldn't drive with tears in my eyes, ladies and gentlemen. I kept pulling over. I would write an idea, or I would try to call. It literally took me about 6.5 hours to get there, and that was one of the hardest drives. Not one of. It was the hardest drive I've ever done. This poem I'm about to perform for you is called Rapture. It came from that 7 hours of driving. Here we go. For Lieutenant Colonel Rose Holden Bean, Mama, your rapture was 0700 May 18th, 3 days before my birthday. My forced hands and twisted arms had to accept your military transition. Though I coped by telling you I love you, I was angered. You resurrected yourself from military retirement. You're an Army Reserved ornament, Mama. You can be decorated with honor stateside. You see opportunity, though I saw a paradox. Why draft your hand into a consuming furnace? Why swim upstream with bullets searching for dog tags? Your tears were the well for the both of us. You drew anger's crucifixions that were dug into my eyes and caressed my dry cheek as only a mother with one child could. My anchored embrace couldn't keep you from being caught up, so when you reminded me of my birthday presents, I felt guilty for accepting your old iPad. Your orchid fingers passed me the apple as if the Steve Jobs scepter wasn't in mass production. It was given as a cherished hand-me-down, but not as precious as your name, Rose. I saw it for thorns and not as a bestowal. They'll wither faster the next version that will replace it. This is the closest application I can download to touch you. Mama, your rapture was timely, and I'm still afraid that on May 18th, I kiss goodbye to your passing ghost. I pray nightly that my haunted theories be proven wrong by your return. I'm still reaching for your mirage, Ma. I'm hoping to catch hope cold, Ma. An hour from your rapture, I needed you back like a swinging pendulum, disrupted to be reminded of your beret scent. On that dew-condensed morning, my shirt was soaked by your departing tears. I have no control or option in this matter, so at a deleted disposal, I'll be patient for you to learn Facebook. I'll explain Twitter until you understand. I'll keep reminding you that nobody uses MySpace anymore, Mama. Tom left. I'll settle for your digital fingerprints until they're replaced by your actual palms, Mama. I should have made you my priority, shipping myself to you every weekend. Why didn't I take advantage of you when you're a 3-hour drive away? I was too busy giving gas a credit to the excuse of being too expensive for me to pay your visits. Now, your only begotten son has to wait on your second coming. When you first spoke of this rapture, I looked you right in your face and didn't believe a word of your prophecy until I was forced to watch you ascend on a plane. My name is Outspoken Bean. It has been my pleasure being here and being a part of this event. Thank you for thinking of me, Talisa. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you servicemen and women who fought. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, yeah.
Since I have to come up here, y'all don't have to go home, but y'all got to get up out of here. No, honestly, thank you so much for everyone that came out. I hope to make this an annual thing that I'd like to do prior to September 11th of every year, only because every war has affected us. But as far as my age group, as a OIF veteran, September 11th affected me tremendously, that I had to join to make a difference. And so I thank you all for being here. I hope to see you next year with your friends and your family and more participation. September, as he did mention earlier, is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So if you could, please take some literature with you that's right by the door. Become aware. Start studying and recognizing those signs and symptoms so that we can not only decrease the suicide rate in veterans, but a population as a whole. Thank you.